Hi, you're watching this video because I've either made you watch it, or you want to learn how to use GameMaker to make cool games, or you just want to see Justin Bieber's hits flying around the screen. In any case, this is the first tutorial of many that I'll be recording, and it will basically go from basic games to a little more advanced games using a program called GameMaker Lite. Not the pro version because I'm too cheap to afford it. Anyway, so this is the game that we'll be making today. I press the little green button. You'll have a look to see what it looks like, and that is basically the game. So the objective of the game is to click on these little fireball things while avoiding buttons and beam heads because they're evil. So what happens when you hit it? You lose the score, and if you click on the little fireball things, you get a higher score. And if you click on it enough, it will take you to a new level that's a little harder, with less fireballs and more Justin Bieber heads, because clearly the game would be incomplete without flying Justin Bieber heads. Anyway, so let's show you how this is done. I'm going to start by running the program from the beginning. So GameMaker. Now I'm using GameMaker 8, not 8.1, because it seems a little more stable. 8, and I don't know, just most people would normally have it on their computers, so but it doesn't really make any difference. The code is all the same anyway, with some slight changes, but we're only here to learn the basics anyway, so complain. Anyway, this is what it looks like when you open up GameMaker for the first time. As you can see, there's a whole series of folders on the left, and basically it's a Sprite folder. Now Sprite is basically the graphics that you're going to be using for all your games. Sounds is obviously the sound effects and the music. Now backgrounds is the thing that appears in the back of the game. So it could be like some scenery, it could be like some squalling water if you're doing a plane shooting game, it could be some grass if you're like walking like a bird's eye view sort of game. Don't worry about that stuff, it's a little more complicated, you don't have to worry about that. Okay. Objects is basically the things that interact in the game. Now this could be anything. It could be like a table, could be a chair, could be the wall, could be the enemy, could be the enemy bullet entering your guts, yeah. So and the gun that you might be holding to throttle the enemy with. Anyway, all these things is where these objects is basically where all the code goes into. So also which image or sprite you'll be linking to that object. So you can have invisible objects that might have code such as keeping track of the score or seeing how many lives you've got, or just keeping track of variables, which we won't go into right now. So yeah, and you have rooms, which basically is where all the objects go in, and this is basically what you see on the screen. So different levels, like the start screen, like the end screen, whatever. So let's start by showing you how to create a few basic things. Now right mouse click is your best friend. Not your right hand, but your right mouse button. Anyway, so if you right mouse click and click create, you can see it shows you all these little things, which doesn't make any sense because I haven't explained it yet. Okay, so you can put the name of what you want to do. Let's say in this game, you notice there was a wall and there was a couple of balls flying around. So I'm gonna create a sprite called wall. I'm gonna load a sprite. Now loading sprite means you're gonna have to find an image that would be suitable for this. Now conveniently I have put a folder on my desktop, and I will make this available somewhere on my website so you can download it if you want to use it. And anyway, so I've created a sprite folder, and I'm gonna choose something that looks like a wall. Okay, it could be a GIF, it could be a PNG, it could be JPEG, it could be any type of image. I'm going to use this one because it looks like a wall. You'll see in a minute how that's supposed to look like a wall. And I'm going to create another sprite, and I'm going to call it wall because it rhymes, and because I like walls. Because the game is about putting on walls. Don't be rude. Anyway, so I have a wall and a wall graphic in my game, but I haven't got anything else. Now I'm gonna create a sound. I'm gonna call it click, because that is the sound I want to play when I click on the balls. And luckily I have a sound effect called click, and I will do it as well. Now background, I don't have a background at this point. I could put a big nice image in the background, but we'll do it in some other game. I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. So let's create the objects. You right mouse click, create object, and I'm going to call this one wall. Now it's always good to name all your objects and sprites and sounds and everything, because some games could have like 1,000 objects, 1,000,000 sprites, and if you're just going to call it sprite 1, sprite 2, sprite 3, sprite 4, sprite 5, sprite 6, sprite 7, sprite 8, then you're going to get confused later on of what everything is. So try to give them some, work out a naming convention that you're happy with. I'm going to call it wall, and I'm going to choose the sprite for it. Now, which one do you think is more suitable, the wall sprite or the ball sprite? Or obviously, click on that, and I'm going to tick solid because I want the object to be a solid object. As you can see, when you put your mouse over it, it even tells you whether the object is solid. I'm going to click OK for that. I'm going to right mouse click, create another object. I'm going to call it ball, and I'm going to select the sprite ball, and I'm going to make that ball solid because balls are supposed to be solid. If they're not, you should go see your doctor. And then we got rooms. Right mouse click on that, you can create a room, and this is where all the fun happens. Okay, so first of all, you can control the size of the room. If you go to the settings tab, I'm going to name the room, it's called level 1, and you can change the width and the height. Now the width and the height are just basically a series of numbers, basically how many dots on the screen, 640 dots wide by 480 dots high. You can change it. If I change it, for example, 400, you can see it's smaller. If I change it to 800, you can see it's bigger. Just to keep things simple, I'm just going to leave it as is, but now you know how to change it. I can set backgrounds. Now I can choose a background color by clicking on this. Let's choose an ugly yellow, or choose a nice, more ugly green actually. So that would do. And it has me here called snap, snap X, snap Y. Basically means that any object that I put in will sort of automatically click itself into a position that's within intervals of 16 dots by 16 dots. I want to change it to 32 by 32. Do you know why? I'll show you. If you look at the image wall, the sprite wall, you can see that the width and the height say 32 by 32. So by having the same size as the sprite, what I can do is when I select the object that I want to put into the game, such as the wall, so I can click here, okay, and then I can click on that. Notice how it automatically clicks. I can hold down Shift and I can drag it around. Like so. Thanks. Ta-da. Okay. And I'm going to put some balls in. And I'm going to put that. And I'm going to just play. Play by this green button. And you test it to see if it works. And ta-da! You have your game. And of course nothing's happening because I haven't put the code in yet. So. Okay, now you're probably wondering why are your balls surrounded by white stuff? Normally the balls shouldn't have anything around it, right? It should be nice and clean so that it actually looks like a ball and not like something else. So what you can actually do is clean that up. Now if you go to the sprites to the ball, now see how it says edit sprite? I can click edit sprite and you can see the image there. I can show preview, but let's say I double click on that. And if I zoom in using this little plus thing up here, you can see this white area around it. Now I can actually erase it by using an eraser tool, and you can see this. What you'll see behind it is a kind of a checkered grayish white checkboard thing. What that basically means is that this area is transparent, which is what you want. Now that's going to take too long. An easier way to do that is to use something called the magic wand, because by using the magic wand, if you click on the white area, it'll click everything else around that's connected that is the same color. And then by pressing delete, ta-da, done. So you click tick, and you can see it's like a sort of a grey and white checker box. But if you go back here, you see it's all gone. Now the other way you can do it, if you hadn't done so already, is when you actually load the sprite and you select the image, make sure you tick remove background. In most cases that will fix it up. It looks exactly the same because I already erased it, but you get the point. Anyway, let's go into the code, because as you saw before, it looked great but it didn't do anything. So what I need to do is think about the code that's going to go in the actual game. So remember, things always interact with each other. So you have to think, okay, when you start the game, what do you want to happen? So in this case, when the game starts, as soon as the ball appears in the screen, first thing I want to do is to have it move around. And so let's work on that. If I go into the ball object, so here, you see there's something called events and actions. Now this is where the most of your time will be spent when you're making games, because this is where all the code goes. Now what's cool about Game Maker is that you don't actually have to know like a lot of code, because a lot of it is basically a lot of dragging and dropping, because people are too lazy to type, I suppose. So what you do is you see things called events. Now events are such things like create, on, destroy, alarm, step, collision, keyboard, mouse, whatever. You don't have to understand all of it right now, but basically what it means is these are things like triggers. It's basically a game just sitting there waiting for something to happen, such as soon as an object's created, or as soon as I've clicked on the left button, or as soon as my object ball has collided with something else, like the wall or the ball, or if I click on it, that's mouse button, or if the ball has left outside room. So it's all these different things, and we'll learn more about it as we go along. For this, I want to see when a ball was actually created on the screen, I want it to do something like move. So this is the trigger. So when the ball was created, in here comes all the actions. What do I want it to do? Now you've got here all the actions that you can choose from. You can go through some tabs telling you what each thing does. Like when you mouse over it, it will explain what it does. Like this is display message. Do I want to display message? No. Do I want it to change its sprite, i.e. change the graphic to something else? No. Do I want it to play a sound? No. Do I want to change rooms? No. What I do want to do is move around. Now, let's see what I can do. Well, here's one. The first one, moved in a direction. So I can click on that and drag it in, and it comes with a little, says say start moving in a direction, and it tells you, well, how do you want to set it up? Which directions do you want it to go? Do you want it to stop? No. Do you want to just go left and right? Not really. You want to go in all directions. So I'm going to click all that. And what's important is that you set the speed of how fast it moves. Higher the speed, faster it's going to move. So I'm just going to choose a speed that works for me, maybe 6, and we'll see how that works. Now, what's great is that you can just test it straight away to see how it's going to work. So by pressing play, you can see how the game's going to work. And you can see the balls are moving, and they're leaving, and they're not coming back. So if you want your balls back, you're going to have to tell it to do something. Did you notice that the balls basically kept going through the wall and there was nothing stopping it? So clearly, as a designer, you have to think, how do you want the game to behave? When the ball touches or collides with the wall, what do you want it to do? Do you want it to stop? Do you want it to sing to you? Do you want it to display a message? You probably want it to bounce. So what you do in the ball object again is there is an event called collision. Now this is great for getting objects to interact with each other. So when objects are touching other objects, this could be something like as simple as if you touch the wall, or as simple as when a bullet enters your chest. Okay. So in this case, I want the ball to collide with the wall. I want it to check when the ball collides with the wall, and if it does, what do you want it to do? Well, luckily there's something called bounce. So I'm going to drag that in there, and I'm just going to click OK. So let's see, you got create, start moving in all these directions, and when it touches the wall, bounce against it. Great, let's test that out. And here we go. Okay, so you can see the thing's moving, but when I'm clicking it, nothing is happening. Obviously, I want to be able to click on it, and I want it to play a sound. I probably want to increase the score by 1. And then, what do I want the ball to do? Do I want it to be destroyed? Do I want it to change its image? Or do I just want it to reappear somewhere else on the screen? See, really, the game is up to you. It's up to you what you want it to do. In my case, I want it to, when I click on it, I want it to play a sound, add the score by 1, and then jump to another position on the screen. So this is how you do it. You go add events, on mouse, left button. So if I click on it with my left mouse button, first thing I want it to do is probably, well, I can jump to a fixed position, like certain dots by certain dots, or I can make it jump back to its original starting position. Might be useful for something like Pac-Man, for example. Or I want it to jump to a random position on the screen. I'm going to drag that one in, and I'm just going to leave it. I also want to play a sound. Now let's have a look to see where I can play sounds. Here we go. This one called play sound. Drag that in. What sound I want to play? Click. Do I want it to loop or repeat itself? No. Maybe I might want background music to repeat itself, but I don't want the click to continually playing for like forever, because that would just drive me crazy. So I click OK. And then lastly, I want to increase the score by 1. Now, if you go to the score, you can see something called set score. Now, I'm going to put score 1. Set score to 1. Now, if I press play, look what happens. Okay, so I click on it. You can see it's jumping. You can see it's jumping. It's jumping. Playing a sound, and it's jumping. But look at the score. Have a look at the score. It's still saying 1. Because I have set the code to say whenever I click on it, set the score to 1. But that's not what I want. What I want it to do is add 1 to this current score. You know, whatever this score happens to be, I want to keep adding 1 to it. Now, how do I do that? Very simply. When I click on set score, leave it as 1. But what you want to do is stick to relative box. Because what the relative box is telling the game to do is basically whatever the current score or this value is, add this amount to it. Likewise, if you want to subtract it, you can do -1 relative. What that will do is subtract 1 from the score every time you click on it. But I just want to add 1 to the score every time I click on it. So make sure relative is checked, and you can see the results for yourself. Right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get the idea? Excellent. Alright, so that concludes the first part of the Clickball game.